Good evening and welcome everybody. This is the Village of Webberville Council meeting. Today is May 13th. We will call to order, starting with a roll call. Here.
Schulberg. Here. Steve. Here. Wolford. Here. Schultz.
Here. Everybody please stand for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So before we get going here tonight, I do want to make one quick comment regarding conduct during our meetings and how these meetings are ran. Now for the past few years now, started by President Hitchcock, these meetings have included a lot of dialogue with the community. As of late, it's a tradition that I intend to continue, but lately our meetings have lacked a certain decorum and respect. I would like to continue being able to have that dialogue, but if we could not be respectful of each other's time, respectful of each other, unfortunately, I will have to make this go back to by the book, by the rules of 3 minutes during public comment, and that's it. No interaction.
I can't hear you.
If we cannot be respectful of each other's time and each other beyond public comment, I will be forced to run these meetings by the book, which means we will not interact with the public beyond public comment. I don't want to have to do that. We're a small community and there's no reason why we can't be respectful of each other and have an open dialogue. So that being said, is there an approval for the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, at this point, we will now open up for public comment at 6:04. So, anybody from the public have any comments? Yes, sir.
I have just a couple of questions. Back in beginning of March, there was an HR issue brought up. Has that been resolved yet?
We will not be answering any questions
It's a simple
regarding
yes or no
staff.
question.
We're not here to answer that.
Are we going to build a school for labor hours and equipment hours?
That's been discussed and resolved.
Did we build a school?
No.
Why?
Any other public comment? Yes.
Yes, I just would like to ask that we look into some solutions for excessive speeding on North Main Street. I mean, I've seen it all over town, but I've seen it specifically on North Main, I think with the school and then the golf course traffic. There's a lot of families with young kids around there. There's a lot of kids that walk to and from school, and I'm telling you, people are going down there probably at 45 miles an hour. I don't know if we can add a stop sign, maybe at Beach or possibly Pine, but twice since the road has been widened, someone's actually taken out the 2 mailboxes across the street from me and driven through my neighbor's front yard. And it's just, I actually heard the last crash a couple weeks ago at 4 o'clock in the morning, and the person was flying. So obviously if someone's gonna drive recklessly, they'll run a stop sign, but I just am asking that something be done. I don't know if we can do a speed bump or something, but it's extremely concerning, especially as a parent, to watch how crazy people go up and down there. And I'm just hoping we can come up with some kind of solution. I have seen the deputy kind of looping around there, but we've got to try to figure out something else. It's very dangerous.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nope. I appreciate the comments. I'll make an extra note. We have a new deputy on staff, so I'll make sure he's aware, and we'll reinvestigate. We looked at speed bumps a few years ago. So.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Along that lines, I live on Pardee, and we have the same problem, and it's not just the golf course traffic, it's the FedEx truck. When they hit that bridge, these guys are more than 45. I have been passed while I'm trying to turn left into my driveway. The guy blew his horn and wanted to fight me. Okay, it's got to stop. And these are people that live in the village. It's not just the golf course people. You know, we have to figure it out. The police have to do something, please. I mean, I don't know what we can do. I mean, I'm reckoning, we have children out there. There's pets. You know, people cross the road. My neighbor has a hard time seeing. You know, if he's at his mailbox, he could get picked off. So, you know, whatever you guys can do, call the police, have the police go talk to the golf course and let them know that we're gonna start running a traffic stop. Something. Tell the people that are at the golf course, slow down. I don't know.
Okay,
Thank you.
I appreciate the comments.
Good evening, John Leonard. I'm back.
Is that good or bad?
I also concur. I live Grand River, corner of Gramer, Grand River, and it is terrible. If they're doing 50 miles an hour, they're going too slow. I mean, they're flying through Grand River. I mean, it's 40 miles an hour coming into town, 30 miles an hour once they get to that sign that indicates the speed they're going. And it is crazy. I've got grandkids that I can't allow them to play out in the yard. I'm serious. They're doing 50, 60 miles an hour plus until they hit that stretch of road. It's a concern and it's dangerous. So anyway, that was one issue. I see we're going to talk about the appointment possibility of a new deputy clerk treasurer. Am I correct? That's going to be a move to appoint tonight?
No.
Okay. Well, I had just had a couple of questions. What was the process in looking at the qualifications? How many people applied for this position?
That agenda item is reserved for giving an update on that search.
But I won't be able to speak on that issue. Am I correct? Because this is public. This is.
We will get to that, as I mentioned before, as long as we can be respectful with our time and questions, I will continue to allow that.
Well, what I'm seeing is we're not going to be able to comment on it, at least to the extent that it needs to be discussed. Is there a person that is going to be possibly appointed to this position that is either related or going to be related to a person on the DDA? That was a question that I would like to get clarified.
Nobody is being recommended for that job this evening.
Something else I'd like to talk about is, as a taxpayer, and this is something I've brought up at the last couple of meetings, because it was in my observation, and this was kind of put off, you won't discuss it, you won't comment on it. I think we have a right to know if the school district reimbursed the village, me as a taxpayer, everybody in here is a taxpayer that's a resident of the village, was that reimbursed from the school district and how much? And if it wasn't, how was it paid for? Was it charged to major roads? And I talked to you about this. Water, sewer, local streets, how did this get paid for? Because this was an expense that was incurred on an out of district or out of village location, and work was done. Who authorized it and how was it paid for? I think it's a fair question, and I think everybody here has a right to know, was it paid in, was it reimbursed, and to the tune of how much, and did it cost the coverage, or did it cover coverage of man hours and machine and equipment usage? As a taxpayer, I think we have an answer. We should have an answer to that.
Which question would you like me to answer? You just rattled off about 10.
No, I talked about being reimbursed from the school district.
I believe that I've answered that question.
I didn't get a straight
Multiple
answer.
occasions. The answer
Was
has
it
been no.
reimbursed?
Excuse me.
I'm asking a
I'm
question.
trying to respond to your question. Please be respectful. This is the exact type of behavior that I was referring to earlier.
This is my time up here.
And you've exceeded your 3 minutes that I'm required to give you, and I'm trying to have this dialogue.
I'm open for any comment that you have to
I
clarify.
have answered you multiple times on this topic. No.
Know what?
I authorized it, and no, they have not reimbursed us. And
Are
no,
they-
they will not.
So our DPW personnel, for everybody here, understand, we're authorized to go work in the school district, 3 employees plus equipment for a day's work, and I have a question as to how that was justified and paid for, because that is not something that is authorized or should be authorized. One other thing. Mr. President, do you know what the word impropriety means?
Yes? Is there a question or comment beyond that?
That was a question. Do you know what impropriety means?
Yes.
Well, let me give you an answer for what I've discovered for impropriety. It's a behavior or action that are dishonest, morally wrong, or not appropriate for a person in a position of responsibility. And this is something I want to throw at the council and you, sir, as president. That's a big concern, because there seems to me a lot of impropriety going on, and we can't seem to get answers for it. Thank you for your time.
For your comments. Does anybody else from the public have any comments?
Good evening. Last time I was here, I told you my name is John Vincent, and I spent 41 years in with different village president, council, what have you. And I thought I would never be back. Unfortunately, guys, I'm here again, just for a few minutes. I do have a quick question, Sam. You're answering people like yes and no. You're not listening. I don't think to that. You don't feel that. You don't seem to be feeling that you owe anybody an explanation on anything. Before I get started, I have a quick question. Have you been to any council meetings other than the Webberville?
No.
The reason I ask that is because if you look on TV, I have been to Howell, Fowlerville, Williamston, what's the next one up there? Okemos, and I've seen the ones on TV. The council meetings usually consist, this looks like a family get-together, and all we're missing is the food and cocktails. Maybe that comes later, I don't know. But out of respect for the council people who we elected to represent us, and we respect them because they are taking their time. The council is usually set with the village president or the council president, whatever it is, and the council beside. All of these other people should be out here, and it's not a get-together, and we're just gonna chew the fat. What you're doing with the appearance of the way you have this set up is degrading the authority of the council, because actually, we hired the council to make the laws and rules and regulations. And the voters have voted you to carry out those things. It's not that you set the rules and the council has to okay it, it's just the opposite. And I think this is very disrespectful for the council people to be mixed up. The first time I was here last time, I had to ask them to raise their hands, we didn't know who was on the council or whoever. The Department of DPW, you know I have the highest respect for Ryan and his men. His report should be out here. You're an attorney. Why you have an attorney at every meeting, I don't know. If you're that afraid of making a decision, you should consider your position. But they should all be out here. Anybody that's not on the council should be sitting across there. These tables should be gone. And that gives them the respect and the duty to let them know they're running a big business, because running the village of Webberville is big business and a lot of money. So I hope you'll take that into consideration rather than, okay, I'll think about it. And give them the respect to do them. I hope the other people will sit back. If you want to have an attorney here for every meeting, he comes and he gets paid $200, $300, $400, $500. I don't care. That's your business. And I've never heard them all the time of having an attorney sit here because you're afraid to make it. Is that legal? If you have to ask for decisions legal, you know already this is not a decision that should be. The reason I'm here, though, and I'm done with it. I'd like to get to my questions. 2 things. Please stop downgrading our department workers, our DPW workers. Those men are educated and they know the water system, the sewer system, they take care of the village, and now you're telling them that go pull weeds from the school, go cut grass for the school. Somebody calls us, I have a problem with my sewer. Oh, I'm sorry, he's cutting grass right now, he's not gonna be there. They're professional people, and they should be treated as professionals, and we're very, very proud of our DPW and how hard they work. And you know that, and I'm, okay. Something was said here last time that we have a company in the village here or something, that, correct me, and I'm ready some guidance on this, that has been accruing fines of some type for quite some time now, is that right? Hello?
I don't understand the question.
I understand that there was a vote here that you want to make a settlement for some fines or something against the company here, and it was, what was the amount that you were, so, just roughly?
The offer that was proposed was $4,000.
No, that's what you proposed. I mean, how much was the fines, levy, or whatever they are?
Yeah, the original fines were a few $100s.
Oh, it's much more than that now. I thought it was in the thousands.
Attorney fees and court costs.
Yes.
Okay, you do not have the right. That's our money, that's the taxpayers' money. If they have busted a law and we have put a lien, or your attorney, I'm sure, has told you that you're gonna file an intent to lien or a lien, or he knows what legal, I don't know anything about it. But there's some, because what happens is if he has and I understood it was in the thousands. Is that not right?
During this last meeting, this council agreed to not accept any settlements.
I know, but what was the fine accrued to?
It is roughly $30,000.
$30,000. So that company can leave town, leave us holding the bag, and we're out $30,000. You do not have the right to make, you as a village president of the council, does not have a right to make a settlement on that. Your attorney, I'm sure, has told you that this goes on throughout every company that's self-employed in states, that we have a right at some point to go in there and say, we'll take the machine, we'll take your goods, what have you, and auction it, build it, put a lien, and take possession of it. In the meantime, if we don't do that, he's gonna, whoever he is, or I don't care, I don't want you to say publicly, but he's going to move out, take his money and be gone, and we're screwed with out of our money. That's not right, that's the taxpayers' money. That, if it's $20,000 or $30,000, just think of that. That's roughly, that's $184 per taxpayer that could be credited to our account. You don't have the, if it's illegal to lien, you don't have the right to vote that we don't do it. I encourage you, village attorney, I'm sure he's encouraged you to take the steps to get tough and get this resolved. And for you to say that you want to take a $4,000 settlement for a company that owes us 20, 30, or 40, whatever it is, that is totally wrong. And my last comment is, this DDA, or this home improvement, or community center is costing us thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. For the purchase, for the rehab, it's going to sit vacant for 300 days out of the year, at least. We've got to cover the heat, the air conditioning, the upkeep, the water, the maintenance of the building. You know, I wish somebody would look. So my last comment is, we're concerned about some of the things that are going on in the village. And so we are going to petition the Attorney General's office to oversee and to take a look at the village council, school board, and the DDA. And the reason we're doing that is because we're hearing rumors. We don't know what, I hope everything is fine. It doesn't smell good sometimes. I'm not making any accusations. One other time, if you think they won't take it, they'll take it. One other time, we had contact the Attorney General's office over some fees that were, insurance was $1,000 coming back to us. We're told that, oh, it hasn't been paid back, hasn't been paid back. I went to the clerk finally, I said, call the insurance companies and see. They called, they said, we made those refunds weeks or months ago, I don't know, it was 30 years ago. So we called, I called the emergency meeting of the council. We instructed our attorney, we didn't ask him, we told him, contact the Attorney General's office by tomorrow morning, we want to settle. They were on it like glue on a paper. We had our money in a very short time. what happened after that, I don't want to make a comment to the individuals who were involved, but they do look into this, and so we are preparing a petition to ask the Attorney General's office to overlook the welfare of the council and of the community of Webberville on their financial dealings. And I'm sorry we have to do that, but let me tell you, they will leave no rock unturned. I hope everything is on the up and up, but we don't know. We're just trying to find out. And we're not getting the answers. You sit there and say, people make comments and ask, well, we're not talking about that tonight. We're not talking. This is not your meeting, this is the council's meeting, and you're here to direct it. And I'm sorry that you haven't been more forward with the community. I had high hopes, but we'll see where it ends up. So I'm just giving you a polite notice that this is going to take place. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else for public comment? Seeing none, so we will close public comment at 6:22. It's apparent to me, the words I said prior didn't mean much, so moving forward, we will be following Robert Rules of Order by the book. So, consent agenda. Everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the council meeting on April 21st, the accounts payable, investment report, revenue expenditure report, and the balance sheet. Any questions on those items from the council? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Roll call.
Yes.
Schulman? Yes. Stanfield?
Yes.
Walters? Schulman?
Yes. Okay. On to our reports. Looks like our deputy is not here this evening, so we will kick things off with the DPW report.
Well, spring cleanup went pretty good. I appreciate everybody getting stuff out to the street. We were trying to pick it up as fast as we could. I'd like to say thanks to my guys for working as hard as what they did. Again, misdigs, if you're doing anything in your yard, gardens, decks, any digging, a shovel goes in the ground, put a misdig in. You can do it right online, it's free. And if you do have flags in your yard, don't remove them. That's been a problem this spring. Costs a lot of money to come out and remark everything after the flags have been removed. So please don't remove them. Most flags are labeled, so you can call the company to see if it's safe to remove, but please do not pull them on your own. Please call or email to report any potholes. Today we put out about 3 tons of material filling holes. You know, we're trying to put Band-Aids on them the best we can. With brush season here, please again, don't be raking up any pet waste and dumping it in the brush piles. Our guys have to reach in there with their hands, and that's the last thing they want to get a handful of. Truck repairs, we did get truck number 4 back. So that is back up and running. So we do have our wood chipper box and our leaf box available to us now. We've had a lot of comments about some road patches. I do have 2 estimates in new business coming up. So I'm trying to get prices on that. I reached out to 8 companies, only 2 were interested in performing the work. We discovered a broken fire hydrant at the corner of Oak and Maple. Planning on replacing that Thursday. Probably gonna do some digging on it tomorrow, barricade off the hole, and then replace that Thursday morning. And then we do have a leaky valve at the corner of Clark and Walnut. Probably gonna try to replace that within the next 2 weeks. That was the result of a water main break. When we turned it, it started leaking, and I cannot get it to stop leaking. So we are aware of it, but as always, if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out. Don't just assume we know about it, just let us know. So
And Ryan,
that's all I got.
that's also if people are having any issues with their water or anything, they can also reach right out to you.
Water or sewer, yep.
Thank you, Ryan. Any questions from the council for Ryan? Okay. Sorry, Mike? Did you have- Oh, okay. Next up is the clerk treasurer report.
I was just doing it brought up on the first thing on the agenda or the new business, but We did have 3 interviews that were scheduled. One did end up having to cancel. The other 2 went really well, but I would like to give more time.
Mr. President, it's hard to hear me, and we're having only hear half of what she says.
So we had 3 interviews that were scheduled. One was canceled, he ended up canceling. The other 2 went really well, but I would like to still give more time for applicants to apply before filling the position. There's a few spots like Indeed, and then Michigan Works. Yeah. And then I did finish my final year of MMTA, which is the Michigan Municipal Treasurers Association Basic Institute. Some of our classes consisted of investing, budgeting, new laws, record management, accounting, cyber threats, and the list goes on. We do continue to have people interested in renting out the hall. As a reminder, the village office and DPW will be closed on Monday, May 26, 2025 for Memorial Day. Obviously, if there's an emergency, Ryan's still available. I was working on getting quotes for BSNA Cloud. Eventually, we're gonna have to switch to that. I did hear from our MRWA guy, which is Michigan Rural Water Association. He did say that there's a lot of bugs, so I'm gonna try to wait on that as long as possible until people actually like to use it. So that's gonna be on the back burner now.
I have a question. Is the job posting on our Facebook page or our website?
That's another thing I want to post on too.
Okay. Just because I had a lot of people ask me that they want to know where we were hiring.
Yeah,
So-
I got a list of spots.
Thank you. Any questions from the council for Jessica?
Thank you.
So next on our report is the WDDA report. I'll ask EPA Chairman to speak on that.
We're today working on the Ford project, Ford building project. As you guys can see that there has been boards in the windows. As they're replacing windows, they realize that the lintels need to be replaced. They were a 3 to 5 year need, but I thought it was best interest of the taxpayers' money to do it now rather than pull all that stuff out later, within a few years. So they're working on that. We got the architect to do the plans for that. We got submitted to McKenna for approval, and the masons want to start as soon as next week to get that done, and the outside would actually be done. Probably about 3 to 4 week turn time for that, because there is brick restoration that needs to be done, but that's what we're working on. Other than that, the Briggs building is, the heating and HVAC has been fixed on, the plumbing's been fixed on it, so it's in a position where obviously we're currently concentrating on the Ford building to get that done, and that's pretty much where we sit. For people that don't know, and for the general public, in 2018, the DDA and TIFA legislation was changed, and it allowed for the DDA to start concentrating on revitalization and rehabilitation of buildings and assets and development of the downtown district. Webberville historically, which is a good thing, it concentrated prior on the business park out there on 52 and left the downtown area kind of at a, you gotta deal with it yourself type situation. So our aspect is now that we actually do have funding because of the business park, and the TIF capture we get from this park is to start concentrating downtown and to revitalization and to attract people to come to our downtown and create foot traffic. And that's exactly what the event center hopefully will culminate. And as we see right now with our projections, it should be actually a revenue plus with very little rental of that facility. But we're concentrating on running to obviously the citizens and the taxpayers first, and then secondary would be outside sources. But right now the event space in the back is projected to be between 150 and 160 people that it can actually house. So having 100, even if you're looking at 100 people coming into our town that maybe never have stepped foot in Webberville, could be a good introduction of economics to the downtown. You know, they're gonna use Bob's to grab something to drink, they're gonna use Mitchell's, Happy Days, Noah's, so there's a good revenue of people, and that's someone that actually actively markets downtown on a daily basis. The biggest problem I always have marketing is we don't have demographics and we don't have foot traffic. So hopefully maybe that brings it. So that's kind of where our hope is. So that's where we're at with all that.
Thank you, Josh. Any questions from the council? Building zoning report, Jim did provide a report for that. Next up is the NISA report. I believe Lana's going to give it.
So at the meeting, they did approve a chase vehicle as well as a vehicle outfitting. Now, the vehicle is on a waiting list, so they're not quite sure when they are going to be able to get it. They also decided to go with a lease option over cash for the ambulance remount, and they can pay that off early if they decide to do so. They are still waiting on the Village of Webberville DDA agreement. I've already spoken to Josh about that, and he is going to send that to both Sandra and myself so that we can get that taken care of. They had the fire school graduation at the Williamston High School. They are going to have a summer fire school class beginning May 28th. They do have 10 students signed up. The EMT class is over and the students are preparing for a national registry test. Ingham County Fire School finished with a good passing rate. They have had new training props arrive and they are in the process of setting that up. They have had different training personnel have attended a high angle / rope rescue with Metro departments at MSU. They had active violence incident training with Williamston PD, advanced trauma training at Ingham County Sheriff's Office. They did a stop defeat training for Webberville students teachers. And also for Station 62, the fire run summary with assist was number, Station 61 was 12, and assist with other was 4 for a total of 16.
Thank you, Lana. Any questions from the council on the NISA report? Next, we'll move on to the attorney report. Mr. Scott Gould.
First item that I have to report is the White Rose matter. This is still an appeal that is now in the Michigan Court of Appeals in Lansing. Removed Ingham County. Our answer is due beginning of next week in response to White Rose. So just to go over how we got here, we have a civil infraction ticket that's handled at the district court level. We got a ruling in our favor. The defendant then appealed to the circuit court. We had an oral argument on that. We supplied briefs. We prevailed. The village prevailed again at the circuit court. And with that prevailing opinion in the circuit court, the judge also granted all attorney fees and expenses to the village because she found that the White Rose defense was vexatious and frivolous, which are pretty ugly words in the legal world, more or less weaponizing the system to try and injure the village over these civil infraction tickets. From that point, the defendant then appeals again to the circuit court, to the Court of Appeals, the Michigan Court of Appeals in Lansing. And they filed a brief. Our answer is due beginning of next week. I have spoke to the attorney on the other side. They're gonna agree to give me an extension of time file my answer. The reason for the extension in this particular case is to try and hash out any more options that may be for the village to try and settle this matter, other than taking a somewhat risk with the Michigan Court of Appeals. It is possible, I mean, I can't predict the future, that the Court of Appeals could, in theory, rule against how the courts have ruled thus far. So it is plausible that Michigan Court of Appeals would say the Ingham County Circuit Court got it wrong, and in fact, they could go on and say that the district court got it wrong. Now, I will say that based on the opinions to this point and how the courts have ruled, I don't believe that to be the case. I'd be willing to say, you know, if you wanted a percentage, I think we're probably 85 to 90% in the good that the Michigan Court of Appeals would rule in our favor, but it's an unknown. And the one variable that is unique in this case is that district court did not officially rule on awarding attorney fees to the village, but the circuit court did. And now that's one of the issues that is being appealed, is whether or not those attorney fees and the expensive litigation are appropriate to be awarded by the circuit court. So, and we prevailed 2 out of 3 so far. The third one's still in the wings a little bit. But we don't have a firm ruling from the district court. We have a very firm ruling from the circuit court, and that's what the Court of Appeals, that's one of the things that they're gonna look at. They're gonna look at the questions raised by the landowner as to our ordinance and the various things that they're challenging in general. And they are now also challenging whether or not it's appropriate for the courts to award the village attorney fees. So as this has gone on, the property owner, through their attorneys, have reached out to me, and they're trying to do risk mitigation, more or less. So that's what this offer is all about. The defendant property owner has offered Village of Webberville $4,000 to stop this appeal, whereby they'll accept that they were in the wrong by the violations of which we originally charged them with. They will pay the village $4,000. We, on the other hand, I suspect this would be some of the details that would have to be hashed out, would likely not extinguish the conditional zoning agreement. That's the agreement that we have with White Rose. That's the piece that White Rose, the way it's zoned, if they, part of that contract says if you violate any ordinance, do anything to the contrary of this agreement, the council has the right to extinguish the agreement unilaterally. And that's one of the powers that we have at the conclusion of this matter if the courts rule in our favor. So that's why they've offered the $4,000. Okay, everyone on track with how we get here? Now, I know in looking through the minutes that the last meeting, the vote was presented, and that it was turned down by the village, and that's fine, totally within your right. The one thing I would ask of this council, if the council is all inclined to counter offer. So your options at this point are, you say, you've already said no to the 4,000, you can come back with any other number that you think is appropriate to try and mitigate the potential loss if the court rules against us. And we can, and I can be the conduit, I'd relay it back to the defendant in this matter and say, just hypothetically, we're not taking the 4, but we counter offer you at $12,000 and we move forward from this point. That's just an example. That's not, I'm not saying that's what you have to do. This case, it does appear to be favorable so far as it's tracked. It's not like we're 50-50 in the court so far. We're batting 1,000 on this so far. But like I said, the Court of Appeals could view this differently. So in theory, if the Court of Appeals came back and said, Village of Webberville, in fact, we're gonna overrule the circuit court and we're gonna overrule the district court, that would be a stretch, but it could happen. Your next recourse could be to appeal it to the Supreme Court. But all of this takes time and money. Now, mind you, this is a civil infraction matter. this course of action, you don't see a whole lot in the real world. This is a very unique circumstance. I mean, kind of tongue in cheek with the defendant in the matter, I've kind of said, you could have paid this ticket every day for an entire year and still be further ahead. And I'm being a little over the top about it, but they believe that there's an actual property interest at stake here, which may be true on their part. But either way, the courts have found in our favor each step of the way, and very decidingly so. So far, it has not been like close call, but again, I can't sit here and guarantee that the Court of Appeals is gonna rule in our favor. So those are the things I wanted to run past you.
Real quick on that topic, Scott, would you like, I know there's an extension, I don't remember if you said how long the extension is for. Do you need a decision from the council or some sort of direction this evening on whether or not there would be a counter on the table?
Well, the counter, if you guys have in mind a counter today, I would ask for some kind of formal action on that if there is a number that you would prefer. And it could also, we could go into closed session on that matter because there is pending litigation that's trying to resolve this. So if the council's at all inclined to try and figure out what would be appropriate, we could go into closed session on that matter. I'll double check that actually as we go through the meeting to make sure that that's appropriate, but either way, an action would be required.
Okay.
So another thing, just real quick, if the council's, if this is a lot of information to try and figure out tonight, my extension with the other side and the Court of Appeals is gonna run for another 28 days. So in the meantime, we should be able to hit another meeting here. Does that sound right? So even if you were comfortable with something immediately tonight, you can say, all right, we'll get it on the books for the next meeting. But that's kind of the process. So once that next 28, because my timeline, my 28 days will actually start from this coming Monday. So this coming Monday, 28 days from that point is when I've got to get my brief in. That's the deadline.
So that would be into June, right? The
Yes.
second week of June.
Yeah. Second week of June, probably to say, I can't remember the exact number, but it was about the middle of June. Yep. And I guess the other option would be is if you guys wanted to call a special meeting, if time was of the essence or something was.
Our next scheduled meeting is the 27th, day after Memorial Day. So I would say it's not on the agenda this evening and we have the time, I'd ask the council to think about it. We'll put it as an agenda item next meeting. And we'll have a discussion as to whether or not, frankly, the temperature of the room last meeting was that, no, there's not a willing to counter, but willing to put that back on the agenda, given that you've laid out the sequence of events better than I did last time in your absence.
That's fine. And real quick to the question and to the gentleman, not to divert too much, but just so there was some conversation about liens, judgments, and those tools. We're not there yet. Technically, everything is on hold until the Court of Appeals rules, right? So once the Court of Appeals says, yes, village, you're in the right, we're gonna endorse what the lower courts have said. At that point, we then have, I know this sounds maddening, but we have to then go back to district court in Ingham County in front of Judge Allen and say, okay, the Circuit Court and the Michigan Court of Appeals have endorsed the ruling. Now you, Judge Allen, have to decide how much money is to be awarded to the village. Now, right now, we're speculating between my time and McKenna's time, we could be upwards of $30,000 for this whole mess. I mean, it's quite plausible. And I know that number is hard to even fathom, but the problem is, the jam and this is why I think the courts are ruling in our favor on the attorney fees and the cost related, is that, how do I want to put this amount of money, if the village would have just walked away from this matter, which I guess in theory it could, you could say, throw your hands up and say, that opponent's too heavy for us to fight with, we're just gonna walk away. The problem you would face as a village and any municipality would find themselves is that you would have no teeth anywhere else, and you would have disparate treatment between one employer, or not employer, but property owner versus another one. And it would just be a matter of, well, we'll just wait you out the courts. I know that nobody wants to be in this situation, but it's a tough burden that a lot of municipalities have to go through, but oftentimes you don't have a defendant that's dug in like this. And I'm not trying to discredit the defendant, maybe he believes in their position, but so far the courts have said that we're in the right on this matter. So, that's the long story of how we got here. The next, okay, so as to the judgments, money judgments, we go back to Judge Allen. Judge Allen, we'll have to submit all our exhibits and show how much money we've spent on this matter. The judge will then rule what he thinks is an appropriate amount against the property owner. And from that point is when we will have various tools to work with, whether it be liens on the property itself, liens on personal property, garnishments, tax garnishments, all that will become an option, but we're not there yet. So, go ahead.
But can they appeal that as well?
No, so let's say, are you saying, can they appeal it, the Court of Appeals?
No, once it goes back to Judge Allen,
No.
back to the district,
No.
and he has to put a money figure on that.
If they did, if they did try to appeal what Judge Allen ruled on, it would be, I guess technically by the rule, yes, they could appeal it. But I would suspect that the judge would look at it with a suspicious eye in that you've got the final ruling, you are now just dragging this out more, proving the vexatious part of this, in which they can start putting punitive penalties in and above the cost. It would be real dangerous waters for them to do that.
But they can do that.
In theory. But the courts could deny it right out of the gate too. A lot of these things, like even this Court of Appeals, the Court of Appeals could come out and say, we're not even gonna discuss this. I mean, it's still a little bit in limbo right now where they're gonna sit. The process is what they call appeal by leave, whereby these types of matters, whomever wants to appeal has to go to the circuit court and say, will you please hear this case?
Right.
They don't have, the Court of Appeals does not have to hear it, and we don't have a formal ruling on that matter yet. Contrary to, let's say, a criminal prosecution, where you've been convicted by a jury, you have an automatic right of appeal.
Right.
In this case, that is not, it's on leave. So there's a lot of things moving here. And we probably won't have, I mean, even if this was fast-tracked, I'd be impressed if we got a final answer by August. And that's moving fast as far as I'm concerned, so.
More like Halloween.
More likely Halloween, for sure. So anyway, that's the big story on that matter. Now that's with Attorney Camorn, who was the attorney during this whole civil infraction matter. Mr. Rittman has hired another attorney by the name of Baldori, I believe is how you pronounce the last name. And we've been on the phone, and it sounds like him and his client have been working on getting together proper plans to get the appropriate certificate of occupancy for that property to use with the businesses that are in it. It's not done yet, but they said they're working on it. So I try to express that although we do have a dispute that's hanging out there at the moment, I hope I didn't go on too much of a limb, but I did say that, Webberville, as far as I'm concerned, is pro-business. We want to make things work. It just has to be by the rules. We need your site plans, we need your build out so Jim Wright can look at it and make sure that it's appropriate and then issue the certificate of occupancy to be in compliance with the village, even beyond the civil infractions. So, a lot of action with that property over there. Last piece is, I have no news to report on Eagle as of today, so that's all I have for the attorney report for this meeting.
I've got a quick question.
Mr.
So,
President, may I ask you
let's
something?
say you got $30,000 invested.
I couldn't hear you.
We have moved beyond public comment.
I just wanted to finish the attorney. I
Or
think,
say, no, it's only worth $25,000. Am I reading into that right?
That is appropriate. The judge he could look at the exhibits and he could pick the number out. And kind of to Ms. Walters' point, if the judge gave us a number and we thought it was unreasonable or didn't make sense, we could have.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the council or Scott? None? Yeah, thank you. So, engineer reports, Bruce.
Yeah, I just want to give an update on the South Main Street project. We've begun the topographic survey on that, which is the first step to give us our base map to start doing our planning activities. The next step that's probably going to happen within a couple of weeks, we'll have some people out to do some pavement corings to tell us what's, what pavement-wise, what thickness we have, what the base looks like, and so forth. So we're kind of moving on with that, with the goal, like we discussed, of getting a project out to bid this fall for spring 2026 construction.
And the roll of the day.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is that everything?
Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any advocate reports this evening? Yes, Lana.
So in regards to the picnic, I just thought I would give a quick update on what is going on. It is going to be at the elementary this year instead of at the high school. That way it's more in the TIFTA district. Oh, you need me looking, is this better? Okay. So it's going to be at the elementary instead of the high school. That way it's more incorporated into the TIFTA district and being more downtown. The food will be served in the multi-purpose room. We are going to do a parade this year for the little kids so that they can decorate their bikes. We also want to have the moms be part of it so the little kids can be, so they can decorate like their strollers. They can put kids in a wagon, they can decorate the wagons. It's going to start at the Summit Street parking lot. That's where we're going to have them line up. And then we're going to have them come down like Cherry Street, cross over Main, and then they go down the sidewalk between the school and the Briggs building, and then they'll end up on the elementary parking lot. I'm okay. They'll end up on the elementary playground, and then they will get a ribbon. And we want to make sure that each child gets a ribbon because we want them all to be special. And we don't want anybody left out. Also on the playground, we will have someone there that will be talking about like the kindergarten roundup. It'll be Heather. And like if anybody wants a tour, she'll be available to give a tour. We are also going to have the tractor show is going to be on Main Street in front of the elementary school. I am waiting to hear from somebody back about the car show because we do have space for the car show. We have room for the inflatables. If it rains, we have space inside. We're hoping it does not rain. We are going to have games for the kids. And I am working on talking to the cheerleaders to see if they can do face paint.
If you don't mind, the one thing I'll add about the tractor show for folks here and folks listening is with the uncertainty of the car show, we wanted to have some sort of similar event and staying with the theme of being in an agricultural community. We decided to put together a vintage tractor show. So anybody at home or here who knows anybody who maybe has an old riding lawnmower, an old Cub Cadet, old John Deere, please bring it out. I know the kids love to see it. Some of us older folks love to see it too. So put the word out.
And with that also being said, if you want to trailer the tractor, we do have parking right there at Jordan's Summit Street. She has offered her parking right there, the lot, for you guys to take your truck and the trailer.
Any questions for Lana or questions about the community picnic? We'll move on to new business. So first up is the deputy clerk treasurer position. So this was really just a placeholder, not knowing if we were going to make a recommendation to hire somebody tonight or not. So far, we have received 5 applicants for that position, 3 of which Jessica and I agreed were worthy of conducting an in-person interview with. As Jessica mentioned during her report, one of those individuals did cancel. The other 2 interviewed really well, but we'd still like to continue in case there's anybody else who wants to apply. So So I suspect that this will be a reoccurring topic with updates until I'm prepared, Jessica and I are both ready to make a recommendation to fill that position.
That person canceled or postponed?
They asked,
Withdrew or postponed?
they told me something came up and they would like to reschedule, and I'm not really inclined to reschedule with somebody who can't make the effort to be here on an interview. It shows a lot about the character of that person.
Well, do we know if it was a family emergency or if it was,
They didn't really give me anything to work with, and that's their right to privacy. Okay, so next on our list this evening is the truck stop. I'm sorry. Yeah, well,
Oh, sorry.
so next is a discussion about a truck stop. So I'm sure a lot of people have heard some rumors about a truck stop coming to the Webberville area. So this evening I've invited the developers to be here, introduce themselves to the council, and vice versa, and have a mutual discussion and be able to ask questions between their organization and us, and vice versa. Maybe dispel any concerns. So at this point, I'll give the floor to you guys, and I'll let you take it.
That's a great way to start. All right. My name is Boston Malik. Steve Kingsley over here, so we're both residents of Perry, and we would love to have the opportunity, and we're pursuing the opportunity down here on right next to corner of M52 and Grand River to develop that area into a more than a truck stop. It's more of a development that ties in with WDDA, as you were talking about, revitalizing the downtown area and this area in general, to be able to hit a couple of things. One of the things that kind of brought us on the forefront from a big vision perspective was some of the traffic concerns that we've had down Grand River and being able to alleviate that. So that from there was born the idea of putting together a truck stop area or something where we can take some of that traffic that lines up over there overnight for deliveries and pickups and be able to divert them off of 52 onto an area that it provides safety for the rest of the community over there. From there, we're also looking to add on there a gas station. You know, and again, when we're talking about that, we're looking at, and any of these topics that we're talking about, we're looking at taking the industry norms that are out there for truck stop, travel center, gas station, and kind of reinventing an evolution like part 2.0. So think of your nicer family-oriented gas station stuff that provides an opportunity for travelers that are along this 96 corridor to be able to make convenient on and off stops. Have eateries down here, because I know right now we're relegated to one fast food option at this point in time, and be able to bring in other eating options, restaurant options. We've also, in the bigger plan, and again, we're talking from a bigger 30,000-foot view, provide option for not only built-to-suit retail space, but also items like urgent care centers. That has been something that the community has spoken to, and we would like to bring that to the area as well. Big part of that is also to develop, and I'll have Steve here kind of elaborate on some of these, where knowing the property owner and stuff, we definitely want to have it, whatever the development turns out into, is have a site to make sure that it is aligned with the needs of the community, with the master plan that we have looked, and we've developed a PUD to coincide with that, and also to enhance the community as a whole. So that, you know, we're talking about, there's stipulation that we don't want to bring solar onto that property. We don't want to bring windmills onto that property. We don't want certain types of businesses in there that detract or from that. And so we really is, the vision is to create that community that brings in other businesses as a whole in there. Provide green spaces in there as well, and not just turn it into a concrete jungle out there. We've seen a lot of those all over the place. That is not the intent over here. It is to create a definitely a community-based development that enhances what is already in Webberville and create along that corridor. Steve?
To Bosman's point, the landowners are local, they've always been local, and they've been clients of mine for over 20 years, and their big goal in all of this was to keep Webberville community values intact. As you know, that property's been for sale for probably as long as any of us can remember, and they have chronically said no to any development because of the flavor of that development. They were in keeping with it. So we began to craft a plan that allowed that to be developed, but in such a way that it didn't devalue Webberville, that it actually improved Webberville. Some of their desire is to see like a core revitalization of Webberville, because as you know, Williamston has experienced that, Howell has experienced that, and several municipalities along Grand River have all experienced that, and hopefully the funnel effect of more activity at the exit would be an impetus to that, or a catalyst for that. And that's sort of big picture. We can't control that, but it certainly is more on the positive side than the negative side in terms of helping that happen. So what we're trying to do is do something that is general enough that we have flexibility in finding something that's profitable, but exclusionary to no adult venues, no dollar stores, no wind and solar, no marijuana venues. All of those types of things they've requested not be pursued, and we've agreed to that. So he already mentioned the sort of the core anchoring elements would be a travel center / gas station / fast food / an urgent care of some sort. And then we'll just see what is ancillary and fills in around those kind of anchoring items.
There's been some feedback from the community about housing options as well, so that is also something that is in consideration as we're continuing to build out the evolving nature of that development as well. So, you know, part of us being here is, again, this is an introduction. I'd love to get to know more of you on the council as well as the community, and we'd love feedback in terms of what would be some of the high priority areas might be, or needs of the community that we can try and build into that as well between now and, you know, as the project evolves over time. We are partnering with, again, one of our partners is LEAP, and we've got Richard here from LEAP as well. So we are pursuing it from, you know, those areas with the right partnerships to make sure that, you know, anything we can do to make this a success, not only from the development standpoint, but also with a focus on the community improvement and enhancement, and, you know, from providing new jobs as well, housing options, new commercial and retail space, all that stuff. We want to have that impact on the community, not only in the present, but also going forward down the road.
Thank you for all of that. It's very encouraging to hear. Is there any questions from the council for these gentlemen?
This is only the property on the south side of the railroad tracks, correct, to Aldi's?
It's that piece between Aldi and the tracks, and then the sliver between the tracks and Grand River.
Oh, it does take up that piece too?
And that piece is a little bit in limbo, only because the zoning on that piece is dissimilar than the piece, the big piece. So the big piece is already zoned correctly. The little piece is still ag. The discussion has been, we ultimately all know that that will be developed someday. The discussion that's been had with the township thus far has been, all of us are community minded, we're all local, we want to see this done right. It would be as good a time as any to look at the zoning for that strip and see if we can't tie it to that development somehow appropriately now, rather than just, it's kind of a weird piece of property, and nobody really knows what to do with it. So we have some ideas that would be suited and would work well in conjunction with what we're already talking about doing, and so that's an evolving concept. But our agreement with the sellers is such that we don't have to take that piece if it doesn't work out. So it's connected but divorceable also.
Okay.
Along those lines of zoning, Scott, this is where I'll ask you for a little bit of help, is technically this property is currently in Leroy Township. I believe that one of the discussions we had is the desire to utilize village utilities, being our water and sewer. So we're going to need to look at doing a 425 agreement. So we should start getting that drafted up.
Okay.
Now would be the time to be looking at that.
Okay, yeah, 425 is appropriate.
I got here a little late. What side of the tracks is it on, the north side or south side?
South side is the piece that they're
Between the tracks
having
and all these?
checked.
That
Yes.
is correct.
But the north side is accessible if everything works out for them.
Yes.
And nobody wants them on the north side, but. I mean, why would you?
Depends what they're gonna.
Living right down from it, I know I don't want it.
Well, you don't know what they're gonna put there. I mean, it's a master plan that has to be looked at, but that piece isn't what they're talking about right now.
Do you guys have a timeline that you're able to share of what you'd like to see happen here?
We're hoping to be shovel-ready a year from now. So part of that is in coordination with the purchase agreement that we hold that fits that timeline, but also we're coordinating with the farmer that's farming that so that we're not injurious to his fall inputs or spring planting in terms of buying seed. We're trying to be fair, to his situation as well. So we are in due diligence right now. All of our surveys are done, our environmentals are done. We are currently working with the Drain Commission because there's a drain issue on that property. And there's a wetland issue on that property, so we're working with Eagle on that as well. So we just authorized the engineering for both of those and put the money down for the engineering, so we're waiting for that plan to be developed, and then it has to wind its way through the gears of government to get a blessing. So it's a drain that has been long-standing, it's never been maintained, nobody knows if it works. But it's on, the developer to figure that all out. And then there's potentially an adjacent issue with Aldi because they also utilize that drain, so there would be some considerations that have to figure into that equation from an engineering standpoint. So we're working our way through that now.
Okay.
I might ask, just how many acres are we talking?
Ryan, do you have any comments on, regarding the utility availability there?
We have plenty of water sitting on that side of 52. There's a 12-inch main that comes right off our tower. There is a stub on that side of the road that is readily available. It's in the utility right away. I don't have an answer yet as to how wide that right of way is and, all the legal stuff there for bringing water, for you guys to bring water down to where we're sitting, because that would be on you. Sanitary sewer wise, that would have to go through engineering, because I'm not sure of the depth of my last sanitary manhole out there compared to the elevation of your property.
Right.
Easily overcome, put in a small pump station,
Sure.
pump it to me, Utility wise though, there would be no issues on our side of things.
Might ask you, I guess.
Do you see any concern?
How many acres are we looking
to
at?
have their own supply or treatment?
Thank you.
No, none whatsoever. No. Capacity is just fine. Treatment, it would be actually considered what we in the industry call clean sewage. Obviously, any food service have to have grease traps.
Yep.
If you were to do a truck wash or anything like that, obviously you're gonna have your silt traps for that, so I'm just getting.
Yeah, there's a lot of newer technology in regards to that where there's not even a discharge, it's actually a complete
It's
recycle.
recycled,
So we're looking at all those options.
Yeah, so we're already on talks with folks who do that sort of stuff so that we can have some, get ahead of the curve on that.
It's cheaper to do it now than later.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
But no capacity or treatment issues or concerns on my side of things.
And you mentioned Leroy Township, we've had discussions with them as well, and they're very favorable and willing and able and wanting to work with the village on a solution.
Okay.
Yeah, and to the acreage question, all of the wetland is to the rear of that property. And our hope is to commingle the retention and the wetland mitigation together. We think in doing that, we're surrendering 14 to 16 acres to that use. So we'd be reducing that single parcel from about 73 down to 59-ish in terms of developed land minus infrastructure and the service road. Because it looks like the whole rear is gonna end up being a green area.
Something to consider when dealing with the Drain Commission, and your designers and architects. Rain gardens are a huge thing that's going right now. So keep that in mind, you know, with all your concrete parking areas. If you can put in, and rain gardens don't have to be anything large at all.
Yes.
But a lot of times drain conditions are more favorable. If you say, hey, we're looking to be proactive on this.
Yes,
So,
we've gone down that rabbit hole already. So if you're familiar with Frandor area, they just had a huge drain issue there, and there was a lot of native plantings. And the science behind it is that the roots of the native plants are filtering elements, and they greatly reduce the load on the actual filtering equipment because it's done automatically.
Yep.
So we've already implemented that, at least conceptually, to what we're doing. And then to your point about the rain, the more green area we can get, the better. I know some of the bigger municipalities towards Genesee County are all flirting with like rain taxes now because they have so much asphalt.
Where's it going?
Yes.
Yep.
So now your Walmarts and your Home Depots, every time it rains, they're getting ready to pay a tax because they can't absorb that water. They're literally shedding 100% of their collected rainfall into the system. So we hope to get ahead of all that because A, it's a more aesthetically presentable thing, and B, it's sustainable because at some point it's going to get caught up and laws are going to start to pass and taxes accrued and all those kinds of things. We'd like to be ahead of that in our planning. So that's the hope.
I've just seen a lot of the natural treatment, per se, of stormwater is going that route. Not only in Michigan, but, you know, nationwide. So I see it in all the different magazines.
Yes.
So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. So our goal, the drain currently is subterranean. It's a clay tile. It has never been serviced that we can find record of. It's 100 years old.
Yep.
So it's a toss of whether it even is doing anything. We would like to see that become an open drain so that it's maintainable, and then we have the ability to combine that with retention by making it of appropriate acreage, and then controlling our release back into the drain where it exits the property. So that's on a Burger King napkin, that's the goal.
Yeah. Great.
Excellent. Well, anything that we can do to help support, I know at one point you mentioned the desire to maybe do some sort of public engagement hearing. I'm more than willing to entertain that. Just let me know when we can schedule it and we can do something on the calendar.
We would like that very much. Initially, that was a little more urgent because of the rising temperature with the truck stacking. And that appears to have abated for a while, for now. And so the urgency for that public meeting has, waned a little bit. But at some point, we would like very much to hear what the community has to say. Obviously, we're not the smartest people in the room, so if there's other ideas that are out that we haven't considered, that's all very, very good feedback for us.
We want to work with the community, and it's not just come and plant something that is not desired or a demand for.
That's awesome. Anything else you'd like to share, questions for us?
Does anybody know anybody on the Drain Commission?
Very much like that.
Working on it. Any questions from the council? Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, item number 3 this evening is the site plan review for Aldi. So this would be for the zoning approval on the proposed Aldi site or building expansion. And Emily, are you prepared to speak on that?
Yes, definitely. First, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Emily Human, assistant planner at McKenna.
Can you speak up, please?
Yes, sorry. So my name is Emily Human. I work over at McKenna. So I'll be assisting Chris occasionally, who's usually here, on some of the ongoing zoning administration work and site plans. So the proposed site plan is a request by the Aldi distribution facility on N52 to expand by approximately 136,000 square feet of the existing facility. So the memorandum that I've provided outlines, all of the zoning ordinance standards that apply to the project and any items of non-compliance. So I'll just kind of go through the items that are currently non-compliant and then our recommendation. The applicant appears to meet all dimensional standards. We would just need clarification on the height of the proposed expansion and refrigeration penthouses, just to ensure that it meets building height requirements. As far as lighting, the proposed lighting does not currently comply with section 153.081E2 of the zoning ordinance. The maximum lighting proposed is too high for the zoning ordinance standard, so that is one item that should be addressed and amended by the applicant unless the village council has some finding of fact that would, where they would consider a waiver of that provision, which they're able to do in the zoning ordinance. As far as landscaping provisions, the applicant, so there's currently trees planted along M52. The zoning ordinance requires 1 tree per 50 feet along the road frontage. I can't, based on the site plan information that was provided, I'm not sure that it currently meets that standard. So just additional information needs to be provided with how many trees currently exist along that frontage, and recommend that we, recommend that trees be planted to meet that 1 tree per 50 feet if it doesn't currently meet that. A sidewalk is not currently provided along M52, which is required by the zoning ordinance. However, we recommend that the village council waive this requirement as they've done with other properties in the industrial park because of the area's existing use as an industrial park and the lack of pedestrian activity in that area. The applicant doesn't provide any information on the total area of the parking lot or landscape islands to determine compliance with section 153.082F2. And then lastly, as far as landscaping, there's an existing wooded area on the west side of the property line. This technically does not meet the requirements of section 153.081F. However, we would recommend that the village council waive that on the western property line to keep the existing tree line. That requirement also applies to the southern property line. And we would recommend that the village council waive the buffering requirement to amend it to 1 every 50 feet, 1 tree every 50 feet as the requirement along N52. One, because that makes a little more sense along the existing freeway, and it'll also match that requirement along F52. Going into parking, the applicant proposes banking 12 parking spaces. The proposed amount of parking spaces meets the parking requirements, but we recommend that those 12 parking spaces that are proposed to be banked be actually constructed. It's just a small amount of spaces to bank, and there's not really a clear reason why those would be banked, so we would just recommend constructing them. Some of the applicant's parking spaces are below the minimum size requirements, so we would just ask that that be amended to meet the size requirements in the zoning ordinance. I think the largest issue is there's been reports of an ongoing issue at the site of truck parking, of trucks backing up along M52. Aldi's, I understand, has specific scheduled delivery times, and trucks are not able to deliver outside of their scheduled delivery time. So as a result, trucks back up along M52, which creates a unsafe traffic situation along M52. And that issue is not currently addressed by the site plan. So we recommend that the existing guard station that's currently on site be moved west on the site, which opens up the existing parking lot to the north of that guard station to trucks waiting for their scheduled delivery time rather than those trucks backing up along M52. Lastly, there's an ingress being added from the existing drive into the proposed parking lot on the southern end of the site, and that width should just be noted on the site plan. So those are all of the existing items of just additional information that's needed or items of non-compliance. We would recommend that the village council conditionally approve the proposed site plan on the condition that the applicant make the following changes or provide us with the additional information of the height of the building expansion and the refrigeration penthouses, amending the lighting plan that decreases the maximum light intensity to not exceed 20-foot candles as required by the zoning ordinance. Provide the square footage of total parking lot, of the total parking lot and the square footage of landscape islands. Construct the 12 banked parking spaces as part of the project. Amend the parking spaces so all of them meet the minimum size requirements of 180 square feet and 9 feet wide. Move the existing guardhouse west of the current location to open up the parking lot to the north for truck traffic as they wait for their delivery time. Clarify the width of the proposed ingress and receive engineering approval. If Village Council chose to conditionally approve the site plan, Village Council would need to waive the requirement in section 153.81F of the addition of the sidewalk along M52 and the landscaping screening requirements in section 153.81F to instead maintain the existing tree line on the west side of the property and reduce the screening requirement along the southern property line to 1 tree per 50 feet along I-96. If anyone has any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
I've got the expansion map behind you.
Yes, that gray area is the expansion.
So that's primarily where the guardhouse is?
No.
So, good evening, Chris Jankovich, Design Engineers. What we are proposing is about 143,000 square foot expansion to the warehouse. So that is this dark gray area, this white area here, this is the existing warehouse, this is just the northwest corner. Down on this end is where the guardhouse is, dispatch building. There's an existing restroom there for the guard. And so we are also proposing to add in an additional restroom there for the truck drivers. Currently the one that's there is only accessible to the guards, so we want to give the truck drivers one as well. We are looking at expanding the parking at dispatch by 53 spaces. We're looking at a small expansion to the parking here on the front side of the administration portion of the building, and that will include EV charging stations. This area here between the existing administration building, north of the existing warehouse, and east of the new addition, this is all new employee parking area. So that's 193 spaces here, and then we're going to have a new entrance into the building. So there's a vestibule that's existing today between administration and warehouse. It's not accessible from the west side. We're going to add an entrance. We have direct access from that parking into the building. The 12 parking spaces in question that are going to be banked are right here on the north side of this drive aisle. We designed those into this layout solely to get to a maximum point of parking on this site. We've designed the stormwater system, the detention basin, the storm sewer. It's all designed to accommodate the additional runoff. Aldi just doesn't need that level of parking at this time. If the village wants us to build it, we certainly can, but there was no need for us to add the impervious area at this time. It's something that may not be necessary for 3 to 5 years. And yeah, we'd certainly do it, we just don't need it at this point in time. To accommodate this expansion, we are going to be moving the detention basin here that currently wraps around this building. We're going to move that further west, further north, and we're also going to have to take that water main that runs through this area, and we're going to have to move that to the north and west of that expansion. One other thing we are proposing are 50 truck parking spaces here, actually trailer parking spaces along that west side, which is a result of what we have actually done to implement the procedures to fix the traffic issues on M52, which I'll get into separate. Sorry, I didn't mean to just jump in, but wanted to give you a good overview of what we were doing there. And then if I can address some of the comments.
How many more trucks are you going to expect that you're making it bigger? How many more trucks are you going to be expecting?
So,
Because on my way to work, between 9 and 10, that road is terrible with semis.
It's your
Absolutely
call as to
terrible.
whether or not you want to answer that, the floor is yours.
Truck traffic is not part of my process. I do not operate the store. I do not have an answer for you if it's going to increase or decrease truck traffic. What I can tell you is we've implemented significant measures to fix the traffic problems on N52. And at this point, I'd like to converse with the board and go through my project and get through this portion first. So with that, there's a couple of things that were brought up here. Just to clarify on building heights, the overall building itself.
Real quick, if I may, for the council, Brian reminded me, there are detailed plans of this in the village office, if you ever want to take a look.
So the main roof height is 32 feet 10 inches. We do have these penthouses here. The penthouses are reaching 43 feet 10 inches. And then this main refrigeration unit here, this is at 50 feet 5.5 inches. And so those dimensions were added on here this week, and they'll be on the revised plan set for that. But it is all well under the 75-foot allowable. As far as the exterior of the building, it's going to be the insulated metal panels, which will match the existing west and north side of the warehouse. And the new trucker's restroom is going to match the existing guard's restroom. In regards to site lighting, we did receive 2 variances on this property for lighting. One was issued in 2001, which allows us to exceed the 25-foot pole height. And then we did receive one in 2010, which allows us to exceed that 5-foot candle maximum on the parking lot. So with the issue of the 20-foot candle maximum that was called out, we have 2 readings that came in over 20. One is on this break area on this patio. This is actually an existing patio, existing canopy. This is existing lighting that is underneath that canopy. And there was 1 reading there that exceeds 20. And then there's an existing canopy here, which is also another employee break area. It has existing canopy lighting, and that one is well exceeded the 20. So those are the 2 readings we have that are breaking the 20. If we were to modify that, we would have to remove existing lighting. So we would hope that that would be.
Just as a point of clarification with that, what you're proposing that plan aligns with what was granted for the site that's currently in place?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, we're using the same light fixtures. So our 2010 variants allowed us to utilize the same light fixtures that were already in place. They're LED Cree fixtures, and so we are utilizing those same fixtures throughout the expansion of the facility.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You said you're having a new employee parking lot to the north?
Yes, this is all new employee parking here. So this is behind that administration building you see on the north end.
Okay, well, what are you planning on doing with the existing, employee lot? Is that gonna be like a staging area for the trucks? I mean, that would alleviate a lot of problems.
I can jump into that and show you, actually, we took care of this back in November. So, 2 items I'll show you. On the existing facility, so this is the existing facility, no new improvements. This area here, which is behind that landscape burner, was originally designed and constructed for truck parking. And so it was all laid out, we could stack 80, 90 trucks in there. But because we were having the problem on M52, back in November, what we did is we devised this plan. So this being that truck parking area, that's all been restriped to create a staging area that holds 50 trucks. And so one of the reasons we're proposing the 50 new truck parking spaces on the west side of the building is because we eliminated truck parking here to be able to create a staging area. So we now have room in this area. This will be landscape burn. Here's our entrance guard tower. We can stage 50 trucks here. The other thing that was done was barriers were installed in these two areas, so the trucks are now directed into the staging area. So deliveries typically don't start until 8 o'clock. And so one of the problems we had was prior to 8 o'clock, trucks started backing up, they're getting on 52, trucks stop across the street. So what's now happening is at noon, at 12 noon, this lot opens for pre-staging. And trucks can come in between noon and 8 and start staging. And typically this does not exceed 30 trucks during that period. It's just a pre-stage time. At 8 o'clock, these trucks are released and they're sent over to the loading dock doors. They can make their deliveries. Additional trucks then start coming in. As those trucks are coming in, they stage in this area until it's a place to release them. They then get released over to the warehouse. This right now does not exceed 40 trucks during that time period. And so since then, since November, we've had Michigan State Police, Ingham County Sheriff, we've had comments from the village. We've been from the MDOT most of all, that they are happy with the procedure and that they have not had any issues or complaints since November of 2024. And so this is what we've currently implemented, and we plan to keep this process in place. But again, it's one of the reasons we're expanding the truck parking on the west side of the building is because we have lost it. With the landscaping, we are required 29 trees along M52. We currently have over 40, and we're going to be planting 5 more on the small berm in front of the dispatch parking expansion, so we will more than exceed that. We do not show all of those existing trees on the site plan, so we will add that to that, so that's clear. Looking at the I-96 frontage that McKenna suggested adding plantings to, if we look from N52 to the wood line, and we don't go past the wood line, we would be required to plant 43. That we determined 43 trees along there. There's probably 16 on site. There's more than 96 right of way. If that's something the village wanted to request, we could add plantings along the I-96 frontage to meet that requirement. It's not a problem. Let's see here. In regards to the parking lot landscaping, I'm going to need a little direction, and then we can add that information on the plans. What's going to constitute a parking area? Is that going to be any paved surface? Is that going to include loading areas, or is that just parking? Is it just auto parking? Does it include truck parking? The ordinance really doesn't define that, and so I need some direction as to how that's going to be interpreted. And then, to that same effect, I'm going to need some direction on what's going to constitute a landscape island. Does it have to be a sole island in the middle of the parking lot? Do peninsulas count? Do corner landscaping areas count? We have a significant number of corner landscaping around the parking. We have peninsulas. Are those going to count towards that landscaping? Ran through the numbers today, looking at every square inch of pavement on that parking, on that site. If I take 5% of that, what I would constitute as a landscape area, we do meet the 5%. We do have to add in a couple of trees because not every one of them has trees, but we do have that green space, but again, it's going to come down to interpretation. And so I need guidance from either the council or from McKenna as to what's going to be accepted, and we can have that information. We covered the bank parking. I do want to cover parking space size. The dimensions shown on the site plan sheets, the detailed sheets, 2.1 through 2.4, they are dimensioned from the end of the stripe to the front edge of the gutter pan of the curb and gutter. They're dimensioned at 18 feet. The curb and gutter is 2.5 feet wide. So technically that parking space from the edge of stripe to the back of curb is 20.5 feet long, it's 9 feet wide. If we discount the 6-inch backing of the curb, we're still 9 by 20. We're the same as the interior parking spaces. We have that 180 square feet. So I think it's just a dimensioning issue because we didn't dimension the back of curb. we do meet the requirement for those outer parking spaces. My question to the village is going to be the ADA parking for barrier-free parking is not really addressed in the ordinance. Is it the intent of the village for the ADA parking to also be 9 feet wide, or are we meeting ADA requirements to be 8 feet wide and then have a 5-foot or 8-foot zone for barrier-free parking? And that's, again, just an item I need clearance on. Covered the changes to the truck traffic. That drive aisle you asked about is 25 feet wide, it meets code, we'll label that. And then the comment on curbing, all of the proposed curb is identical to the existing curb that is in that facility now. So that would be happy to answer any of your questions or anything here.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
The parking area down in the southeast corner for, next to the dispatch building,
Yes.
is all of that parking intended for employees that work in that dispatch building?
No, some of that is going to be for truck drivers that come in their own personal vehicle and then utilize a Sharp Transit truck during their delivery routes. They have to have a place to keep their personal vehicle during.
Okay. So it's not gonna be people, it's not gonna be employees of the warehouse or anything that are using those spaces?
No, that'd be mainly truck drivers. You do have the dispatch employees using it, but the main expansion is for the truck drivers.
And I did a little bit of a review on the plan as well, and, you know, simply noted a couple of things. The water system on site is a private system. Appeared to meet, you know, standard specifications that the village has for water main construction. I did note that the plan is gonna need to be approved by the Livingston County Drain Commissioner's Office for storm drainage. And I don't know if you've had an opportunity to.
I will.
I'm sorry, Ingham County.
Ingham County, I wish, you know what, I wish I was going through Livingston County.
Yeah.
I have submitted to Ingham County, and we have gotten our first round of review comments, so we are making modifications. The main item there is the way this basin has been constructed in the past was I'll call it the old Ingham County standard of drain tile underneath the basin and using wetland plantings within the basin. Although it's still part of the code, they don't want that. They don't like that system anymore. They've asked me to get rid of it, go to a wet bottom basin with a standard control structure. And so we've been going through the process of revising the plans for that. It actually shrinks the footprint of the basin. We will no longer have to push back into that wooded area, so we won't have to clear any trees out. And we just end up going deeper, but not as wide. So when we respit the village, we'll be respitting to the county, and hopefully that will go relatively smoothly.
Do we have a rough ETA as to when construction wants to begin?
Ideally, August.
With I'm assuming your firm's gonna oversee all construction inspection wise?
That will be A.M. King.
A.M. King.
So Mr. Caleb Cook from
Okay.
A.M. King is here. They are the design build contractor that will be in charge of construction.
Okay. We'll have to stay in contact because that water main's gonna have to be moved.
Yes.
You guys own it, but it connects into our public system, so therefore we do have to make sure we follow certain rules. And I personally will be the inspector on site for that, just to verify that, you know, we're doing everything proper so we don't contaminate my water system.
Absolutely. We've designed it so we can put all the new water main in.
Yep.
Make the connection, and then depending on the stage of building construction, we could either remove the old pipe or we could just abandon it in place and pump it full flow will fill up.
Yeah, we'll be in touch.
I think I reached out to you last week about the flow test.
Yep, okay, that was perfect.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions from the council before we take a step back and start going through some of these things?
Can we ask a question or no?
I'm sorry, we've moved beyond public comment.
Yeah, okay. Because I just want to say
so-
something before I leave.
Sir, we've gone beyond
All right.
public comment.
But I, in January, called the Ingham County on semi that was blocking the road. So your thing about nobody called is bullshit.
Okay, so, back to item number 2 on the lighting. Being that we granted a variance, I guess twice before on this issue, would those still be in place, or would they need to apply for a variance on this expansion for the lighting as well?
So my understanding was there was a variance granted related to the height of the light poles. I was not aware of a variance granted for the, maximum lighting allowed.
Okay.
So if a variance does exist for the actual maximum lighting, then it should be good to maintain that variance that was granted. If there wasn't a variance regarding the maximum lighting, they would need a variance, to go above that 20-foot candles.
Okay.
So when I requested that one in 2010, I specifically asked that it run with any future expansion for the property. So it should be part of your record.
Okay, so can we, I guess, circle back on that item and confirm?
Yeah.
I'd still like to move forward with a conditional approval, but I guess we'll have to omit the lighting section from that until we clarify the variance. Next, that I noted is on the landscaping of where it's required, and you're looking for some guidance on the interpretation of that. I don't know, Emily, do you have any comments first?
I don't have any comments at this time, but I'll, speak with Chris further and come back with the.
Okay, does that work for you?
Yeah, as long as we could get an answer here this week, that would be very helpful, because we want to resubmit regularly.
Sure, yeah.
Right. So will you and Chris handle that, or do you need input from the council? Because I certainly have opinions on, I guess, the interpretation of that, but I don't know what you need from us.
So as for you have opinions as far as like the landscaping, being.
Well, yeah, because I believe you made a comment about where it's applicable being, is it a, what's a parking area? Is it a loading zone? And I guess as a layperson, I would say, why would we require an island to be put into what most people would consider being active work area? An island's just gonna continue to be hit by semi-trucks as they're trying to go about business on the site, right? So I guess that's just my one opinion on, where do we define what that is?
Okay. Yeah, appreciate that input. I'll talk to Chris about it further and see, what, based on his, experience here, what he,
Okay.
what thoughts he has. And we'll be sure to follow up this week.
Okay. And then the last note that I had is on the ADA parking. So I was unaware that our ordinance wasn't more clear on that, and I would say, unless McKenna has a different recommendation, that we would just default to the ADA guidelines, that we're not adding anything above and beyond, right?
Yeah, no, to my knowledge, we're not adding anything above and beyond with the ADA parking. I think maybe part of it is how it was measured, and that's, but the parking did meet, ADA guidelines from what I could see.
Okay. Perfect. So did I address all I think the concerns and direction you were looking for from us tonight?
Yes, except for whether or not you want more trees on I-96.
Okay. Really a council decision.
You said you had how many over there now, sir? 16?
There's 16 to my best guess, looking at Google Earth and a couple of things. I'd have to get out there and walk the site. There's probably 20, 25 within the 96 right away, but we don't have any control of those.
I don't think the trees on that side are that big of an issue to me.
They don't make that big of a difference.
No.
Yeah.
I would plan to read everything.
Say, we're good with that. So with that said, we need to coalesce some sort of motion and recommendation on all of this. So I would recommend that we approve the Aldi zoning approval per McKenna's letter dated May 5th, 2025, with the suggested recommendations, less item number 2, where we will wait for clarification on the prior variance for land. Am I missing anything in that?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
How about the requirement for building the deferred parking spaces?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
I think, I think if the applicant really wanted to make those spaces, that's understandable. It's just a very small amount of spaces to make. But it's not, they meet the minimum and maximum, they're within the minimum and maximum parking requirements. So if they don't want to construct those bank spaces, they're not required.
We would just be heartbroken if we didn't have to come back in another 3 years to get another permit.
So do we want to add to that recommendation to exclude the, I think it was 12?
12, yeah.
12 bank spaces? So, do you need to repeat that in whole? Recommendations out there.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
McEwen,
Yes.
Schoenberg,
Yes.
Stanfield,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Schulte.
Yes.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on with our agenda. Next up is the master plan. So Emily, you still have the floor.
Yes, thank you. So we're super excited to, kick off the update of the master plan for the village. The first item I have, is just a draft schedule. So the goal is to, in addition to the master plan, we're also going to be updating, the Parks and Rec section as part of that to submit for MDNR grants in the future. So the village can do that through MDNR. Those plans are due to MDNR by February 1st. They have to submit by February 1st to be eligible for that funding. So the schedule bases it off of that deadline and tries to wrap things up, a month sooner to provide a little bit of breathing room for that deadline. If anyone has any thoughts or questions about the project schedule, any recommended edits, we're happy to make adjustments to meet the village's needs.
Well, I think the timeline looks great. I think it's reasonable. And just reviewing the memorandum of what you included, including the survey to go out, I think it's great. Also thrilled to see that Webberville was able to grow by 9% despite surrounding areas declining.
Yeah, it's super exciting, really optimistic. So lots of exciting things that we can do as far as planning for the village's future.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, if there's no thoughts on the schedule, I'll kind of move on to our next master plan item. So the next thing I have, so I pulled the public services and utilities section from the current master plan. And this is just to ensure that the information in here is still accurate, so I can, if it's not, I can update it as needed. Also, just something to think about as we go through this process. And we kind of touched on it when you guys had the discussion about the truck stop. But thinking about if the village wants to have some sort of policy in the master plan as far as when they'd be interested in extending village water and sewer outside of the village's municipal boundaries, and what criteria a project should have for the village to consider doing that. So that's something I think to think about as we go through this process. Is one, is the village willing at all to extend its water and sewer past its municipal boundaries, and two, if it is, what what criteria would a project, need to have to be able to explore that? So if anyone has any comments on that or any corrections or changes to what is currently in the master plan as far as public services and utilities, maybe you have another police station now or whatever the case may be. Happy to take those comments so I can update this section as needed.
For communications, we have had a lot of additional comms, suppliers, ISPs come through. So I see noted, we have WOW, Frontier, I believe there's also Surf. There's 123 Net technically supplying the village now, as well as Comcast.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, the first one you said is Surf?
Surf, yep.
SURF.
Yep.
123.net and Comcast.
Am I missing any? I think those were the only comments that I had for public service and utilities. Anybody else? Council?
On medical facilities, we technically can't have a dental practice.
Oh, that's right, I missed that.
Yeah.
What was that? I'm sorry.
For medical facilities, it says that we have a dentist office, we cannot have a dentist office anymore.
Okay.
But we do have a doctor.
No dentist office for the doctor's office.
Yes.
All right.
It's like a walk-in clinic.
Yeah, we are.
For dental.
Okay.
That's correct. It says the nearest urgent care facility is in Meridian Township. Technically, we do have our urgent care on Grand River.
But technically emergent parents? I know they're walking.
Well, they're a walk-in, so I mean, they're walk-in urgent care.
I don't know
Yeah,
what the rules and definitions are.
I don't know if they're technically urgent care.
It's hard because like in school, because they're, there's some that we can refer to as urgent care. Josh, are they referred to as urgent care?
I think they were trying to get that, that designation when they went in. I don't know if they got it, and I don't know the difference between what that means.
Yeah.
I gotta assume, in my personal view, is any place that you can go, you can walk right in and get service. I feel like it's kind of urgent care.
Urgent care.
But again, I don't know what the classification difference is. I mean, probably for her sake, a walk-in doctor's office would probably be a good classification of it.
Walk-in care. Yeah, walk-in care.
I don't think they hold that classification. If they have other offices in the state that clearly say it's sent to urgent care, and the one in Webberville says sent to family care.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So,
Family care.
All right. Family care facility. All right. Is there any other thoughts about the public services, utilities, and just updates that need to be made to that section?
nope.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
He's got a cabbage delivery though, right?
Do,
The bus?
yeah,
Yeah, the bus.
it's a good point. Do we have a public transportation section
There will
for?
be a public transportation, we can add more information about the public transportation system to this section. Typically, we also have that type of information in the transportation chapter, but you can certainly add it to this section as well. So I can add some information about Canada.
Okay.
Because it's still being utilized.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think
You know, I mean,
I think it's important too that if people are looking to move to Webberville, that's one thing they're looking for. Do you have a bus service?
Yeah, we'll still include that in the transportation section,
Okay.
but we'll also include just a brief blurb about Canada there. So it is a service.
Excellent.
Okay, Well, if there's no other comments on that, I'll kind of move into the initial demographics update we did and key takeaways. It's a very exciting, the data is very exciting for the village, so that's great. Based on, all the data that we pulled from the US Census, we learned that Webberville has experienced a 9.4% increase in its population over the past 5-ish years between 2018 and 2023, so that's really optimistic. In addition, Webberville's average household size has increased during that same time period, which is, unlike, Ingham County and the state of Michigan, where those places, most places, the household sizes are decreasing as people are choosing to have less children, things like that. But Webberville's average household size has increased, which might have some implications for like housing, for example. People might be demanding larger home sizes, as an example. Webberville has their top 2 population groups are school-age children and retirees. So you have kind of both ends of the spectrum there. So when we think about planning strategies as we move forward in this process, having different planning strategies that address the needs of both of those groups, I think, will be a key part of the process. Most of Webberville's housing stock was built prior to 2000. So as these homes continue to age, exploring strategies to help residents maintain their homes, or assist senior residents in making necessary accessibility upgrades, might be something to consider in the master plan and resources that the county and state might have to support those efforts. Vacancy rates have increased from 7.17% to 12.1% between 2018 and 2023. So there could be a number of reasons behind this, especially since population increased. More people potentially are living in households together, which, considering the increase in household size, might be, likely. There's, because it appears that households are getting larger and more people are living in one home, there's, additional vacancy. Median household incomes have decreased by $21,049 between 2018 and 2023. Meanwhile, median home values have increased by approximately 24.5%. So this indicates that buying a home seems to be, increasingly unaffordable for Webberville residents. So thinking about strategies around that might be a consideration for this master plan. Lastly, the top 3 occupational sectors that Webberville residents work in are manufacturing, educational, healthcare and social services, and retail trade. And most Webberville residents commute between 25 minutes and an hour to work. So these are the main takeaways that we've found in the update. So we'll keep these in consideration when we're drafting, planning strategies and goals and objectives with you all. So we can, address the needs of the population in this master plan.
Very interesting data.
Yeah, the demographic stuff is always really interesting.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Okay, last I have a draft of the community survey. So the goal is to get this survey out this month to start getting resident input on this. We'll create an online version that can be accessed on the village's website for folks to take, and we can also, provide the village with hard copies so folks who, would rather fill out a paper version rather than going online, are able to do so. So we're hoping in the next, week or so to get this finalized and, built out online and have a hard copy version ready so folks can start taking the survey, and we plan to have had us open for about a month to give folks adequate time for feedback. So I have, a couple edits to make, but if anyone has additional edits, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
And this is an example of your questionnaire.
Yeah, so these are the proposed questions. So I want to hear, your guys' thoughts on these questions. If you feel like they're good questions, if you feel like there's kind of things that maybe we're missing, questions that you edited, added, removed.
Maybe for the Parks and Recreation section, asking residents about, how often they use the parks is, do we maybe want to specify that excluding Simmons Park, which is technically township?
Okay.
Because I think probably most residents, when they think of parks, that's the first thing they think of.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, that's a good no. So I can add excluding Simmons Park.
Outside of that, I don't really have any other comments. I think it covers really well.
Okay.
Very anxious to see what people have to say.
Yeah, me too.
Any other thoughts from the rest of the council? When do you need us to vote on an official one to go out?
No, you're not required to do that. I just wanted to, present it to you and get any feedback, and I would, implement that feedback, so I'll move forward with implementing your edits, and then I'll get it all set up to be put on the village website so folks can respond and get some hard copies.
Okay. When would be, if any of us were to come back with any questions or comments, when would be like a deadline that you need those by?
Let me see.
If you want to put this out for July.
Well, I'm gonna try and put it out this month.
Oh, okay.
So, and it'll be open for 1 month. So from the date I have here on the survey, which can be, flexible, is May 20th. And it'll be open till the end of June.
Gotcha.
So,
Sorry, I misread your Gantt chart.
no, totally fine. So,
I have one.
yes,
So what about something about the library? Maybe how often do you use the library? Is there anything you would like to see differently about the library? Something, if there was more children's programs at the library, just something to do with the library.
Maybe just how often you frequent it.
Yeah. Are there different programs that you would like to see done at the library? It's all one.
And Jess, you're gonna check into that height of that fence requirement. You get back to a little bit.
I did check and it does say 8 feet in the
Did you notice?
ordinance on American Eagle. So that was.
For,
Any place in town?
where are you seeing this as part of the master plan?
Yeah.
Where did you, what page did I catch that?
It wasn't, it was in the site plan review.
In the
for
site
all
plan.
these.
Oh, okay.
So,
Gotcha.
sorry.
Now, when we had first moved here, I asked Jamie about it. And she had checked it up and she said 6 feet. A couple years ago, I had asked Jess about it and she had looked it up and said 6 feet. So what is it, 8 feet, 6 feet?
Six is common, but I'll, not without backtracking too much, I'd say let's circle back with Chris and see
Yeah.
maybe edit was made or error.
Yeah, I'll have to check
converse
into
with
that,
them too.
but
Okay,
I'll let you know.
all right,
Put that on the front page.
all right, thank you.
okay, so adding the question about how often folks frequent the library and if there's any additional programming or services that you'd like to see in the library.
Thank you.
Yes, no problem. But if there's any other edits, if possible, if you can get those to me by the end of this week, that would be lovely. And then that way I can make those edits, and then get everything ready to be released to the public,
Gotcha.
if at all possible.
Perfect. Yeah, well, when that does go live, I'm assuming you'll email us, but
Absolutely.
we'll work on getting a link and posting it on Facebook and newsletter.
Sounds great.
Excellent.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here, and you'll be seeing me, on the occasion. So I'm excited to get to know everyone more, and I appreciate you guys' time today. So.
Well, thank you for your time and contributions today. Moving on, next item is the village hall toilets. So I know earlier in the year when we were discussing budgeting, we were discussing the fact that the two restrooms immediately outside the hall here are in much need of updating and repair. Some of these repairs are probably needed sooner than the entire renovation project, if that's what you want to call it. We did have an issue, I think it was during or after one of the hall rentals, we noticed that there was, the leaks have gotten worse. So these leaks have been persistent, so obviously we've been using a lot of water as a result. So had Brian work with Deeds Plumbing Services to get a quote on either repairing or replacing those facilities. Essentially the conclusion that Ryan and I arrived at is it doesn't really make sense to do a repair. These units are so old that parts are not only hard to come by, but they're expensive. So that to spend a couple $1,000s on repairs where there's no warranty doesn't really make a whole lot of sense compared to just replacing what's there. So right now it looks like replace a toilet is $770 per unit, and to replace to rebuild the urinals in the men's room would be $575 per unit. There's two of those, and we also need to add stop valves for all of those fixtures because currently not it. That being said, Ryan, I did notice in here, the quote was for 3 toilet replacements. I believe we have 4.
One was new enough where we can easily get parts for it. It was replaced just recently, I don't know exactly when, but it did not need to be replaced.
Perfect.
And on that note, so council knows, because we did put money in the budget for possible renovation of these bathrooms. So if we move forward with the toilets now, because right now one urinal is out of service, I can't stop it from leaking. So replace the toilets now. Later in the year, if we decide that we're going to do a full renovation of the bathrooms, we can just reuse these toilets. We don't have to buy new toilets, we don't have to buy new plumbing. So at some point, new toilets are going to be bought, whether it's now or later with the full rent. But with this hall being rented out as much as what it is, the plumbing in there is failing at a rapid rate. Jessica sees it, I see it as well, every month on our water bill for this building, because the toilets constantly run on the weekends. So it'd be smart just to do it now. It's going to save us money. We can reuse them when we do decide to do the renovation.
So that's the quote that we have for a total replacement. No rebuild would be $3,960. I recommend that we proceed with the Deeds Plumbing Services for replacement, no rebuild, not to exceed $3,960.
Second.
Roll call?
Yes.
Yes.
Stover?
Yes.
Stanfield?
Yes.
Walter?
Yes.
Schulte?
Yes. Okay, next item, number 6, is the Memorial Day 5K walk event run permit. So luckily these folks got this in just in time. So this is for the Webberville High School cross-country team. Yep, this is going to be doing, they're going to be doing a 5K starting at the elementary school to Grand River, to Webberville Road, to Party Road, to Kramer Road, and then in front of the high school, because that's the route they follow around here. This will be on Monday, May 26th, Memorial Day. Does not look like there's any money's being spent. Brian, you aware they're asking for some cones? Yep. Okay. I recommend that we approve the Memorial Day 5K walk run event permit. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? We've got another event permit. This is for the Memorial Day Parade. So this will be on, of course, Monday, May 26th. This will be conducted Grand River from the high school to Monument. Again, DPW is being asked to provide barricades. See no problem with that.
Only what, about an hour, I would say, and that's acceptable.
Okay.
We can do that with our barricades. Obviously, there will be a police presence there, so I don't see any issues there.
Any questions, concerns about this permit? I recommend we approve the Memorial Day 5K, Memorial Day Parade event permit.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. Next on our agenda is clerk treasurer pay. So as everybody likely aware, over the past few years, our clerk treasurer Jessica has been working diligently on getting certified as an official clerk and an official treasurer. A few weeks ago, she did conclude the clerk portion of that, and since our last meeting has concluded the treasurer portion of that. So congratulations, and thank you for your hard work. As it is, I would like to recognize this with a merit increase, so adjusting pay here as well as moving this position to a salaried role. Historically, this was a salaried position within the village, and when you look outside of our community, this is a position that generally carries salary rather than hourly wage. So in the packets, I included some math, just so you all understand what I'm recommending here. So the current rate as of today, prior to receiving certifications, is $24.19 an hour. Gaining 2 certifications, an increase of $2 an hour to $26.19 times 40 hours a week times 52 weeks would be $54,475 a year. However, as part of the clerk responsibilities, of course, our clerk takes minutes for us, which is currently paid outside of regular payroll at $100 per meeting. We're scheduled for 24 meetings a year, so that's an additional $2,400 that I'm recommending we include. So all of that said, I recommend that we move the clerk treasurer position to a salaried role at $56,875 per year.
So moved. Second.
Second? Any discussion?
Does this have any ramifications on our budget, or is there gonna have to be a budget amendment meeting or anything? No?
No, this is simple conversion.
Okay.
Roll call.
McEwen?
Yes.
Schoenberg?
Yes.
Stanfield?
Yes.
Walter?
No.
Schulte?
Yes. Thank you. Moving on to the water system reliability study and general plan quote. I thought Joe from Michigan Rural Water was going to be here tonight.
He was here today updating our rate study.
Okay.
This isn't anything that Rural Water can do.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was for that rate study.
No.
This is separate. So
No,
this
this is completely separate.
So this is your thing.
Eagle mandates that every 5 years, water systems have a reliability study and a general plan. We had our sanitary survey done. I touched base on it 2 meetings ago, I think it was, where I presented the findings. This is one of the things that we have to do in order to remain in compliance. I have until November 1st to complete this project. Our last one was completed in 2014. They are required to be done every 5 years. I can't speak for what happened in 2019, as I was not here. Eagle's not quite certain either. The only thing I can come up with is there was no significant changes to the system, so they may have granted an extension. I don't know, but here we are. In order to stay in compliance, we have until November 1st. Spicer Group did our last one in 2014, so they have most everything on file. There really has not been too significant a change to our system other than its aging. So I met with Spicer a few times on this, and they provided the quote. Like I said, this is something that is an Eagle requirement. We cannot deny doing this. And right now we are facing a November 1st deadline. That is per Eagle in the sanitary survey that I gave each and every council member about a month ago. So I stuck with Spicer just because they already had everything on file. They did our last one. And it should be a pretty painless project, considering the short time frame we have to complete it. So normally you get about 1.5 to 2 years to do it. I've got 6 months, so.
When would they mobilize and when would they complete this by?
They would mobilize immediately upon approval, and it would be completed and turned in prior to the November 1st deadline for Eagle.
What does that entail, Ryan?
It entails looking at our system as a whole, when it was built, the infrastructure, every aspect of the infrastructure, the materials that the pipes are made out of. They kind of do a risk assessment on everything. They look at the current population we're serving. We try to do a population prediction model, like what are we looking at for expansion wise right now. Within the village, it's relatively limited. So that's just kind of the general plan, and then the reliability study kind of touches with that likelihood of failure. You know, they're going to look at our pipes, our wells, our pumps.
We run cameras to the system.
Yep, we go through everything with a fine-tooth comb. Our wastewater asset management plan and reliability study was completed in 2023, and that binder is about 4 inches thick. So, I mean, it's not a small document whatsoever.
Right. Are there any other providers in the area who just do this type of service?
There are, but they're all gonna be about the same price. So I didn't even waste my time with that. Spicer was gonna probably come in lower just because they already had everything on file from the last one. And then just with our short time frame, because you're gonna be looking at least a week or two for a company to provide us even an estimate.
Right.
So
they think it's going to take 6 months for them to get this done?
oh yeah, we can have it done by the November 1st deadline.
Right.
So yeah, it's not something that
We can't necessarily afford to wait a month.
Right, exactly. Because I gave you guys all a packet, the sanitary survey, and it clearly states in there that this has to be completed by November 1, so.
hopefully, whoever's sitting here, whether it's me or somebody in the future, 3.5 years from now, we can get more quotes, but
Right.
I recommend that we approve the water system reliability study and general plan not to exceed $20,000.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Goodwin,
Yes.
Schoenberg,
Yes.
Stanfield,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Schulte.
Yes. All right, rounding things out, last item, we've got the road patch quotes. So I know Ryan and I have been talking a lot about how we address some of the really rough areas of the roads within the village. So I'll let Ryan talk about the company that he's looking at.
So, every year, you have to dig a road up. For whatever reason, whether it's water main break, a sinkhole on your sewer system, whatever it may be. We did not do any road patches last year. 2 years ago, we did a pretty good sized list with one of the providers here. Last year, we didn't really do any because we only had 2 or 3 areas. So this year, Sam did approach me about some areas, and we did have a couple of water main breaks that completely blew the road out. There's from curb to curb, or not curb to curb, from road edge to road edge, the road's gone. So I just made a short list. I mean, these are just, they're Band-Aids. We can't fix the whole road. We have to draw the line somewhere, but we have to do something. So I reached out to multiple companies. 2 companies responded. There's not a lot of people that like to do patches just because they can be intensive. So McKerney Asphalt did come in with the low bid. They would probably have everything done in 1 day. They would come in, we won't even cut the road, they will mill all the patches out with their mill, and they will patch them, you know. So the biggest one is Franklin Street. That is a huge problem. Kind of have to draw the line somewhere, can't repave the whole road right now. Then we had, like I said, a water main break on Oak Street. We had a water situation on Pine and Howard. Then the rest are just areas that we can't keep cold patch in. Like I said, my guys put out 3 tons of material today, and it's probably gonna be gone in 2 weeks. Cold patch is just that, it's a temporary Band-Aid. Road patch, at least buys us some more time until we're able to complete the whole road. So, like I said, I kinda had a list, worst of the worst, and 2 companies responded. So.
I assume this comes from local street fund? Or it'd be funded through local street, not major?
Everything's local.
Yep.
Are we gonna do anything with South Summit and Grand River? Are we just gonna let that go to dirt?
South Summit and Grand River did get a good sized patch on it 2 years ago. Right now, it's just kind of getting cold patched. I would add that to my next round of patches until
Next
we're ready.
round this year or?
Probably next year.
That'll just be a dirt hole by then.
So, you know, like I said, we have to draw the line somewhere short of repaving every road, so.
How does this fit in? Did you look to see how this fits in with our budget for this year?
I have not looked at any part of that yet. I just wanted to give you guys the quote so you can see where we're at.
The Main Street, isn't Summit a Main Street? A major,
That block of Summit is a major street.
So isn't there funding in that account to take care of part of that road? I mean, that intersection right there is just horrible right now.
I know it is.
I mean, it's kind of embarrassing.
Same thing on the other side of the road, the north side.
Well, yeah, that one's.
Yeah, I understand.
Just reviewing the budget sheet here.
Yep.
Did Kearney say when they need an answer by, or how long this quote is good for?
Normally it's 30 days, yeah.
That was,
Yep. Terms of acceptance, second page.
well, it's good to have the number.
Yep. Like I said, it's just, you would ask me and
Yeah.
here's where we're at, so.
I agree with Mike. I'm wondering if we could have McCurney see what the cost would be to do South Summit too.
I can add to the list.
That's almost as bad as Franklin.
I agree.
And then in the meantime, I'll work with Caitlin to see how we can fit this into the budget.
Okay.
And then hopefully next meeting we can come back with a direction on this, go or no go.
Yep.
Ryan, when you have them come out to quote that, you just have them quote the north side, it doesn't cost nothing to get the quote.
All they do is take my measurements.
Okay.
I just provide with measurements.
Okay.
Yep. So I'll
You
do that as well.
Just to get the idea.
Yep.
Makes sense?
I think,
I mean, only go from, I guess, just to the alley driveway or whatever,
Pretty
on
much the alley.
Summit, and then,
Yes.
Josh, how would that fit in with the board building project for the DGA on North Summit?
Mayor, when you guys are mobilizing, because right now we have to tie back into that. When Ryan fixed that valve, he had to put taps for the fire suppression system and the water main coming off of that.
You won't come into the roadway for it?
Oh, it won't be, okay, then that's, yeah.
Off the road?
Yeah, as long as it doesn't disrupt, I just don't want to see you guys fix that and us rip it back up.
Nope, that's in the right of way.
Perfect.
Even with, if we look at trying to add diagonal parking on the east side of North Summit,
I mean, that'd be probably a first question or a Ryan question.
And we'd have to look at the right of way, what we have there.
I just don't want to spend money on road patching if part of the board building project is going to be paving that area for parking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it might be if that's the direction we go. I mean, it probably wouldn't hurt to get a price, obviously, to see what it would be, and then, the possibility of the DEA says TIF districts, so we can actually, and we're planning on eventually, when there's money to fix the drain issue and get that parking lot up and running, having that whole section all paved nice would be probably conducive, but I think we also need to look at curbing and some other drain issues that are there, because that whole situation there is pretty, the water doesn't drain where it probably should be draining it.
No, not at all.
Needs to be looked at.
So yeah, I'll get updated numbers for.
I think we can just quote it and figure out what to do from there.
Yep.
Right. Okay. That brings us to the end of your business. Anything else from the council for this evening?
I want to discuss and figure out how to get it on the meeting notes, but I want to discuss, abandoned, unlicensed vehicles, tractors, snowmobiles, all the stuff that's laying around, and, these people want us to do everything we can for them.
You said abandoned stuff?
Well, I don't know if it's abandoned, but there's a lot of vehicles sitting around in driveways, no
Okay.
place.
Sorry, I didn't know if you said abandoned or abandoned.
Well, abandoned or just sitting here, but I mean, it's just something, everybody wants us to do something for them, but our people need to do something for us too.
Right.
And if, I mean, we walk this town and I drive around this town, there's a lot of vehicles sitting around. I mean, there's 2 down on South Summit, there's 1 down on South Main, there's a yard full of them out on Party Road, there's 2 of them over here on the road across from Kennedy's Closet.
The best way to approach that, get a picture of it, you can either forward it to Jessica or myself, and then we send it off to Jim Wright. Address, photo. And then it goes,
I've got all the addresses to make the vehicle, I can make photo.
Yep, then it goes through the code enforcement,
I mean,
and that's the
it's
proper
something-
channel, that's the proper channel.
Everybody wants better from us, well, they need to give us some too, I think.
Yep. So we have a code enforcement officer for that. As long as he knows about it, then, you know, then we go.
And I know in the past it's been enforced because when my wife and I bought her Camaro, it wasn't in my driveway 3 weeks and we got ticketed for it.
Yep.
And I know other people have had stuff in their driveway for a minute and all of a sudden, but there's cars sitting around here for 3 years, nobody wants to do nothing about
So
it.
get them to her right, we can get them to get right.
Okay.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
We'll make motion to adjourn.
Yeah, I'll find out.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you all for coming.
Check the box.